And we have with us now Chris and Ophelia DeSaris, and we were joined by them last segment, and we were talking about your organization called Women Speak Out, or Women Speak Out, and it's really about violence, sexual violence.
Yes.
And I know both of you were survivors of sexual abuse. That's really what brought you together, or at least brought you together for this, to do this. And I know that you speak on college campuses, but you also have an interactive program that you do. Tell us a little bit about that.
We do. We work on campuses, college, university. We also customize it to private organizations, nonprofits, as well as high schools. And what we do is we have several programs, some of which include Women Speak Out. Women Speak Out's Don't Waste the Pretty. And that is for the female audience. So really talking to them about what's going on, social issues, society, how we view ourselves as women, what we do to ourselves, and then taking it from there and how that can manifest itself in abusive relationships. And not that it's ever the victim's fault, but we have to be conscious of what is happening out there and be smart about it. We also have a program for the men, which, Chris, actually, you can talk about that.
Yeah, we have a program called Calling All Greeks, and that kind of tells you what it's targeted towards. And that specifically is oriented towards intimate partner violence. And of course, we were talking about the common word date rape and things that go on in campuses. So we acknowledge that the Greek societies are obviously a great empowerment tool into campuses and talk to students. So we wanted to bring the fraternities and sororities together in a discussion about issues.
And we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to work with people who are already in place, and they have such a great organization. They already work together. And we always say the safest place that a sorority sister should be able to be is in a frat house.
Right.
And when it isn't, that's an issue. And when we have so many women being raped on campus, that's an issue. So we sort of took what's already happening, looked at the packages that are currently out there and said, how's that working for you? And it doesn't seem to be working. I mean, there are some great organizations out there, don't get us wrong. But we took it one step further, and that we're both survivors, and we said, how can we make it different? Well, we're going to talk about our respective experience and then bring it together and say, look, you got to come together.
Yeah, just saying no isn't the answer to so many things.
No.
And we really need to get it. But we're feeling this general shift out there in consciousness, and it seems like it's been coming for a long time. And a lot of this, I think, comes out of what has been perpetrated on us by our social mass consciousness, which is really separation, and competition. And now we're just learning once again that our experiences are all common.
And we need to work together.
Yeah.
And the thing about abuse is it's based on, the aftermath of abuse is based on secrecy, right? Abuse happens in secrecy.
Right.
It allows for shame. It allows for, we always say that men and women deal with it very differently. Women tend to internalize, whereas men make it external.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we work with that also, because we are different. We are different, and we accept that. But it's really about coming together and making it work.
Well, for our listeners who want to, get online right now and learn more about you, what is your website?
Our website is, we have two web addresses. It's womenspeakoutnow.com and menspeakoutnow.com. And that's primarily, we have plenty of resources for survivors, for any concerned community members to go on there and access those. So all our resources we have public service announcements. We put on YouTube videos for people. So there's plenty of resources there.
Again, that's womenspeakoutnow.com and menspeakoutnow.com for all of you computer geeks out there.
Yeah, and we have a big, base of community members on MySpace and Facebook as well. So that's something that's really great, because we see the numbers increasing every day, which means that, like you said, consciousness is being raised.
Yeah.
And the community at large is growing.
Well, I think that one of the things that's so important is that you two seem to have just a really beautiful relationship. And I guess that the stereotypical view of somebody who has come through abuse is that, your relationships for life are going to be ruined. But it's becomes such a common theme in our society. We're abused in so many ways that there is life after abuse.
Well, and I don't want to romanticize it too much, because obviously you guys have put a lot of work in this.
Yeah, a lot of therapy.
Mm-hmm. A lot of therapy.
I've been in therapy since I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We're in couples counseling. Mm-hmm. We do individual therapy. We get that there's a lot of, you can't love someone else until you love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're abused, it's ingrained in you. A certain, you're told whatever number of disempowering things to get you to that place where you're a victim, and then you take that with you, whether consciously or not.
Right. Yeah. So this is a process.
Absolutely.
And that's what people have to understand. And that makes sense. Everything, Brenda and I, everything we do is a process. It's never ending as
Marriage
long as you're
process.
living. Yes, it is. That's
and one of the things I wanted to ask you, Chris, is what you alluded to, or actually said in our last segment, is that the fear with men is that they might become abusers themselves. Do you see that trend? Does that necessarily happen?
There is the statistics show that there's a small percentage that does, but the predominantly male survivors don't become abusers. And so, that's kind of what it shows. And I want our male survivors to know that, that's not necessarily where you're headed. But a reason why male survivors do become abusers is lack of resources, lack of the community providing a safe environment for men to come out and talk about these things. Mm-hmm. So those are some things that we're speaking out about. And,
There's a real stigma around abusers. There's a hatred actually for abusers.
Hatred is a really good word.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a hatred. Do you address that at all? Because I think that's part of the problem, is that we hold people in a certain energy and keep them stuck there.
We do, and that's a really good point, because people don't really want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the recidivism rates, we look at those, and especially with children. You have children who are conditioned in their abuse, and they learn those things from their abuser. It's not so crazy that you would then take what you've learned as a child and continue it on until the cycle can be broken. And so there's a lot of people out there who are like, it's black and white. But it begs the question, where does this come from? How did this start? And I think until we start speaking honestly about how it really starts, and that, this perpetrator was more likely than not abused himself, it makes us have to look at it and say, wow, you're human.
Yeah, you're so right on about this being black and white. One of the things that we hear in sort of the political season, one of the ads is pushing a death penalty for, child abusers. And again, it's kind of like, the World Trade Center's bombed, let's go out and bomb the world.
Right, an eye for an eye.
Yes, an eye for an eye versus how do we get to the root cause. So I'm very interested in the kinds of therapy that, you send people to. Obviously, is this a widespread thing, or, is this therapy that's more enlightened these days existing?
It really depends on where you go. I always say that therapy is like a pair of shoes. For the women out there, they're going to get this right away. You might love the look of the shoes, but they don't always fit the way that you want when you try them on. Right. And I say the same thing about therapy. There's a lot of amazing therapists out there. Ours is a godsend. But just go around and find the one until it's a perfect fit. And sometimes you may be with that therapist for a year and then reach a block where you're like, you know what? This isn't working for me anymore. I have to move on. And you know what? That's okay, because it's your life and you have to do it. And there's so many different types of therapies as well. When I first started on this journey, I had to go to group therapy because I just wasn't ready for individual one-on-one. It was too intense for me. And then I moved on from there. And then I got into advocacy and counseling and became, so it really is a growth period.
Well, folks, we've been speaking with Christopher and Ophelia DeSaris, and they have this wonderful organization, Women Speak Out, and the websites are www.womenspeakoutnow.com and menspeakoutnow.com. And thank you guys so much
for having us,
for what you're doing and joining us here today on Conscious Talk.
Thank you.
Thanks.